Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Just checked my speakers working because my webcam wasn't, so I've had to
All
resort
right.
to a really
I
crappy
w
low definition backup.
I was having the similar problems. That's why I was a couple minutes late. So I think I have everything working now.
Yeah, I've got good sound, but I don't look anywhere near as sharp as you do.
You look great. You look great.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got Eric Bass, bassist with Shinedown and solo artist, with a new album coming out on February the 28th. And I'd just like to, this is something I picked up some other interviews. It's a question I was going to ask, has been answered before.
Sure.
Um, I believe, have you heard of a thing called nominative determinism?
Nominative determinism, is that what it is?
It is,
I've
yeah.
not. I've not heard of that.
Okay, it's something where a person's name kind of determines what they do in life. So, say for
Okay.
instance, a guy who works in a butcher with the surname Butcher.
Yeah.
People will often look at your names and assume, "Hang on, Eric Bass."
Yeah.
It's pronounced Bass, isn't it? You should have been a
It
fisherman.
is, yes. But I actually, it's my favorite hobby. I offshore fish all the time. So
Really
there you go. You're proving your concept.
fantastic. That works really well.
Yeah.
It is. I'm aware of one other bassist with the surname Plunkett, which I actually quite
Oh,
like. That's exactly what you do with a bass. So,
very good. Very good. Yeah, I like that. No, it's true. I feel like I was destined to do something musical for sure. The fishing kind of came on later,
yeah,
but hey man, it all makes sense, right?
it does indeed. Um, So the new album is I Had a Name.
Hmm.
Comes out at the very end of this month. Um, do you more than just play bass on it? I believe you obviously wrote
Oh
an
yeah.
awful lot of it.
Yeah, played everything. Yeah, played
How's it
everything.
going?
Played everything, wrote everything, sang everything, mixed everything, produced everything, engineered everything. The
Wow.
other thing, only thing I didn't do was master it. So I say I sang everything. There's some children that sang on it as well, but a kids choir. But other than those things, yeah, man, I did everything myself on this record. So
That's lovely.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was having a quick look again through some old information as well, because the fact that you play bass, play a bit of guitar as well, which we,
Hmm.
we, we knew, both
Yep.
of those yourself taught, I gather. You've never had an actual
Yeah.
formal lesson, or?
Never had a lesson. Well, I did. I had one lesson. I had one guitar lesson one time, and it was very obvious from about the first 2 minutes that it was not going to be agreeable to me. So, uh, I have an authority problem. I'm pretty sure. I figured that out as I've gotten older. It was the same problem I had with piano when I was a kid. My mother made us take piano lessons, and I despised piano. I despised piano lessons. I wanted to use music as an escape, not as something else to be learned, not it's demanded that I learn.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with piano. I threw it off. I didn't want to do it. And then until later, I decided that I wanted to do it, and then I taught myself how to play. So, yeah, I have a tendency to do that. The only thing that I wasn't really self-taught on was drums. In high school, I was a trombone player in a concert band, which is yeah, I know another thing I didn't really want to play, but I had to play. But I was so terrible at it that they put me in the drum line in school band, so in marching band. So I played the quints, which are the five
Oh,
drums in
yeah.
marching band, and I had some training with that. I had pe people around me who taught me taught me technique and that kind of thing, and which also served me well on this record because I say I performed the drums on this record and not played the drums on this record because me sitting down in the drum kit and doing traditional like my double bass and all of this stuff, my feet don't really work like that. So what I did is I set the drums up on stands and I played everything with my hands like this. So I had the kick drum here, snare drum, tom, tom, played all the drums this way, ba, 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 and all this stuff down the toms, and then went back and overdubbed cymbals. And as to not be, I don't want to denigrate drummers by saying, oh, I played drums. I performed the drums in that way. It was not in a non-traditional way. I really just wanted my DNA to go into this record. I did, in every part of it. So, but yeah, drums would probably be the only thing that I had any sort of like training on per se, I guess.
So how many instrumental parts? Are there any keys on the album as well? Because
Oh
obviously
yeah,
you
yeah,
mentioned the
yeah,
pianos there.
yeah.
So
Lots of pianos, lots of synthesizers, lot of there's a lot. There's some orchestral stuff that I did the orchestral scoring, but that is all in the box orchestra stuff. But I did do the scoring on that. But yeah, it's a lot of keys on the record for sure.
Yeah, so at some point you went back to that piano that you were forced to play as a boy, and
Yeah, man. I enjoy piano now. Once I had to decide for myself that I wanted to do it. No one was going to tell me that I was going to do it.
yeah.
And once I decided that was something that I wanted to learn, I think it was in the early 2000s I went back and
Mm.
started teaching myself how to play again. And I mean, I always had an intuition about it. You know, there's something if you can close your eyes and kind of imagine yourself playing an instrument. Not
Mhm.
that it's going to feel exactly like that. I'm like that with drums. I was like that with piano. I could close my eyes and feel everything. I could feel the pedal and the motion of my hands. That helps a lot, you know, because then it's kind of in your mind's eye. You can sort of know intuitively what to do. So when I went back to it, to teaching myself how to do it, that intuition was already there. But there's an artist named Ben Folds, and he's a
Yep.
piano artist, and I just always loved his music, so I just put on Ben Folds records and started trying to learn Ben Folds songs by ear. And um, I'm not saying I learned them well, but I learned them, and it was enough to. And he also helped with my drumming too, because
Okay.
a lot of people don't know this, but he's a great drummer. Ben Folds is a fantastic drummer. He's probably one of my favorite drummers. And on some of his solo records, he's the drummer. And
Mhm.
so I would put those records on and sit down at the drum kit and play along and try to parse my way through it. So he was actually hugely influential with me relearning piano and some other things. So that's kind of how that happened. So
Yeah. Interesting. I've had a couple of listens to the album. We've actually had it for a little while here at Moshville
mm,
Towers. One word that would jump straight to mind to describe it would be eclectic.
yeah, yeah.
It's very much a collection of songs, um, which is interesting for those also who heard the two singles so far.
Mhm.
There is definitely an obvious Shinedown-ish kind of sound there because obviously that's the stuff you've been writing for the
Yeah.
last couple of albums.
Mhm.
But there's way more than that. It definitely couldn't be mistaken for a Shinedown album. But it's very much an album by somebody who was involved with Shinedown. So there's a nice link there. It's a nice bridge through.
Yeah, yeah, you can take the kid out of Shinedown, but you can't take the Shinedown out of the kid, I guess, and is what they would say. But yeah, I contribute an awful lot to Shinedown writing and production and that sort of thing. So obviously and naturally, there's going to be similarities in certain things, and maybe riff style or more audio type things, production, that sort of thing. But yeah, man, I decided to have no rules on this record for myself. That was part of because look, I mean, at the end of the day, when I'm making a Shinedown record, I'm making a record for not only myself, but for three other individuals, and then
Yeah.
ultimately for the world. And so there are, uh, sort of unspoken parameters. We don't ever talk about Shinedown sound or this can't be this or that because of and Shinedown records it can be quite eclectic as well,
Mhm.
there are people there to kind of rein me in when I get
Yeah.
too far outside of the spectrum. So that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about doing the I Had a Name record was that I didn't have any of that. It was very much I kind of took the Mike Patton approach to it. Because there was a moment of like, man, maybe I'm getting too out there, and maybe some of my ideas are because I like an awful lot of things, and I've started thinking, man, maybe some of my ideas are a little out there, and maybe I should not do this or that. And then at some point, I was listening to a Faith No More record, and I was just like, man, Mike Patton just kind of and on Tomahawk and other things that he's done, he just kind of does what he wants to do, and whatever makes him tick. And I'm like, that feels really good to me. So that's why it is. Again, it's not all over the place, there's definitely a thread that runs through it. But I definitely wanted to explore and allowed myself to explore different sounds and vocal stylings and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting album. Listen through it, and we will have a review up. Well, we've got a good 4 weeks before it comes out. We'll have something out before then. I just want to go back to the email I got from the publicist. It's got a couple
Yeah.
of nice little quotes here, which lead on to some things I'd like to talk about. The album, it's about a series of characters. So it's in a way, it's kind of a concept album in
Oh,
terms of
it's 1,000% a concept album. It
concept.
actually
Yeah.
goes with a graphic novel that I'm writing. So
I
it's
did not know
it,
about
it's
that.
it's about those characters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. So.
fantastic. And it's this is again this is quoted, but it comes from a conversation I had with the
Mhm.
PR as well. It's unconsciously reflects his journey with faith, autism, ADHD, executive dysfunction, and reconnecting with a lost childhood. The
Yep.
bit that got me, and this is from the conversation, was the word unconsciously. It wasn't
Hmm.
a deliberate attempt to go, I'm writing a song about ADHD. I'm writing a song
No.
about executive dysfunction. It was like you
Yeah,
wrote
yeah,
it and then reflectively realized it was
yeah,
a lot more
yeah,
than you bargained
yeah.
for.
Yeah, this is, it was even shocking for me for sure. It was shocking for me for sure. So this record is about a story that I'm writing, and it's sort of it's basically the soundtrack for this graphic novel that I'm writing,
Yep.
and that will be out the fourth quarter of this year, so later this year.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was basically just taking snapshots of snapshots from the story and writing songs about them, which is not unlike what I do when I write songs not about a graphic novel. You know, you're taking snapshots of things you've experienced, things you've seen. With Shinedown, with Brent and I, things we've jointly experienced. You know, and taking those snapshots and writing something about it. And I always say that you know the best songs you write are the songs that are really honest, and
Yep.
the songs that are and no song is super easy to write, but the easiest songs you write are going to be the ones that you're writing honestly about. And one thing I noticed when I got into writing these songs about these characters and about their experiences was that they were really easy to write. You know, I was writing these, like, oh, this is surprisingly easy to write. And I kind of chalked it up to the fact that I know these characters intimately. They're people, you know, they're people that I've thought an awful lot about, and
Yep.
their journey is something I've thought an awful lot about. Um, but I was listening to, at some point, I was listening back to the record, and it got to, I think it's track five or I think it's five. It's a song called Good Night, Good Night. And that's a song that it means an awful lot to me. I had this moment of kind of shock where I had this you know this I kind of sat up in my chair and realized that I'd probably written the most autobiographical record of my career through these characters, and um, you know, because they're just singing honestly about themselves. And as I'm listening to them sing about themselves, I'm like, oh, they're singing about you, you know, because I'm in all of these characters. I've written these, you know, and that's where and I started reflecting back about the lyrics and about these characters. Like, wow, man, like you really, no wonder it was so easy to write because I didn't realize how much of myself were in these characters and how much I put into that. I always see them as these individuals, and but naturally have being the person who birthed them, for lack of a better term. uh they've got my DNA, they've got my maladies, they've got my strengths, they've got
Mhm.
these things in them, and so
Yep.
what I end up with in the I Had a Name record is um lyrically something that I think is yes, it's decidedly about a character, and it's something that they're experiencing, or characters and what they're experiencing, but uh it is very much about me at the end of the day. It's very much my view of these things, and all of my depressions and um you know like again, struggles with faith and finding faith again, and um having an ADHD brain, neurodivergent brain, the autism stuff, it all kind of is reflected in the lyrics, and I think that's great because what you don't end up with a lot of concept records, which I love concept records. I don't know if that's a secret or not. You judging by the last couple of Shinedown records, now this, but
Yep.
um, can be impersonal in a lot of ways, and I think this record though taps into things that are very personal to me on an emotional level, and I'm hoping that that will translate, to the listener as well, and they're going to be able to hear themselves in these songs and see themselves in the stories. So.
Mhm. A couple of things again, talking about the neurodivergency and a
Mhm.
bunch of other stuff as well. We've got a lot of musicians find that writing music, and artistic people in general find that creating their art, whether it's music, piece of art, whatever, is very cathartic.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people would deliberately go out and write a piece of music to be cathartic. What you seem to have done is written a piece of music that has then maybe helped by being self-referential. Would that make sense?
Yeah, well, look, man, the only time that I feel good, and I've come to learn this about myself, I'm, what's a great way to start this? I am not the best at seeking help for myself. I know I need help, but I'm not always the best at going and seeking it. I always try to self-help, and I've
Yeah.
continued to self-help, and to my detriment, probably, and to the detriment of people around me. A lot of the time, that's the case. The only thing that makes me feel like I have self-worth, and the only thing that makes me feel great is creating and being
Mhm.
able to create something and then have other people listen to it or enjoy it.
Yeah.
Hopefully enjoy it. Um, that's why I stay out of the comment sections a lot, because if they don't enjoy it, it makes me feel really bad.
Yeah.
But so it's the only thing that is cathartic is creating. And that can be kind of anything for me. It can be whether I'm doing a piece of artwork like drawing, painting, or writing poetry, or writing a book, or writing music. It's the only thing that makes me feel alive and makes me feel great.
Yeah.
And that might seem a bit cynical, that's the
Mhm.
only thing people don't. I have other things I enjoy, but
Yeah.
that's the thing that really makes me tick. So,
Mhm.
um, it's going to be cathartic, uh, no matter what, I think. And here's the other thing too. It's not that's not always a great thing either, because sometimes it's torturous, to create these things. I do self-torture a lot when I'm making things as well. Like it's got to be great, it's got to be good, and my inner voice isn't necessarily too nice. But here's the thing, man. All of these things and that is part of the neurodivergent thing. The inner voice is really difficult in dealing with that stuff. And I have a tendency to call myself stupid and terrible and blah blah blah. And it's not very. I drive myself really hard.
Yeah.
And failure is the sorry, success is the lowest acceptable bar. You know, and that can be a rough place to be. But all of that being said, the act of making these things is my therapy. That is what it is, and um, it's the only thing that gives me chills. It's the only thing that makes me feel, empowered. Um, More so than playing on stage or anything like that. Playing on stage is sort of it's a it's an exercise, right?
Mhm.
But it's not really the thing that does it for me. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
being in a studio and creating and making music is. So naturally, all of that catharsis is going to make its way into the record, one way or one way or another.
Mhm.
And hopefully it did on this record as well. So and look, at the end of the day, I honestly feel like I was put on earth to try to help people. I know that might sound a little whatever to somebody, might not sound, it's not a very rock star thing to say, but at the end of the day, I really do feel that, whether or not whether or not I'm writing a heavy song that, again, someone can get in the mosh pit and bleed it out. And I've done that before for sure.
Yeah.
Or you're alone in your room and it's something soft and speaking to you in that way. Music and art is meant to help people, and at the end of the day, that's how I want it to be. That's what I want it to be used for.
Mhm.
So ultimately, I think that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that kind of that thought process about music and so forth. We've spoken to quite a lot of artists. We did a focus last week on Mental Health Week. We only get a week for mental health. In America, you get a
Hmm.
whole month for because you
Okay.
have to do everything bigger, obviously. Um,
I
but
don't, but do we do it better? I mean, it might be, I don't know.
there's more of you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. But it is nice to see that these kind of things have been recognised and talked about. And
Sure.
there's been so many years gone by. And the one I always refer back to, Linkin Park. You listen to all the
Mm.
lyrics, and when I
Yeah.
was 20 somethings, and you heard those songs, you just heard those songs. It's not until you
Mhm.
hear them years later after Chester's unfortunate passing that
Yeah.
so much of that was written from his perspective. It was first person. You realize that was his catharsis.
Hmm.
Rob Flynn, I know from Machine Head, writes
Yep.
music that comes straight from his heart and his past experiences. Ginger
Yep.
Wildheart from the Wild Hearts. There are so many. Rory, who's just released a debut album, which has
Yeah.
got amazingly
What's crazy, man?
instrumental.
I started following her page with her husband, the ADHD page that she did, not knowing that she was making a record. And then all of a sudden, it turns out that she's making this. I had no idea she was a musician. I knew nothing about that until she released the record.
Yeah.
I think she's amazing, man.
It is a phenomenal album. I
Yeah.
mean, I was almost in bits listening to some of the lyrics. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do a quick shout out because I promised I would do this for some guys.
Yeah.
That there's an organisation for those in the UK. If you can't see that, I'll make sure the details go down at the bottom. Called Heavy Metal Therapy, and they're just a little organisation that encourages people to meet up, go to gigs, and get out. As you mentioned, playing on stage for you is kind of part of the mechanics, but getting
Yep.
into that mosh pit, jumping up and down,
Yeah.
listening to that music, it's one of those
Well,
things that can help. So
but something else about that too is fellowship, right? And like getting together
yeah,
and being with others. That's something that's always helped me, man. Is I have a tendency to again in my self therapy and in be I become very insular.
yeah,
Honestly, I'll be very transparent right now. Right before this interview, I've been sitting in this room by myself for like the past 4 hours,
yeah,
and not really being productive, feeling really terrible. Not feeling so great about myself, probably thinking things I shouldn't think. And uh, but even this, even with you and I, the fact that I have to get on here with you, interacting with another human being and talking
yeah,
about these things does help, man.
yeah,
And so uh, I never feel it might not be the thing I want to do. I might not want to leave. I might not want to go out and see a bunch of people, and but I'm never mad that I did it because
yes.
if I get around my friends and I'm always going to feel better. I'm always going to feel it's very difficult to ruminate
Mhm.
in those about my issues. It's very hard to ruminate when I'm around my friends. So
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And I'll be
yeah,
100% honest with you. I could be saying those exact same words. I'm
yeah,
exactly the same. Same
yeah,
thing. So I can totally relate to that. So that's two of us telling people, as you say, being self-helping and whatever is fine if the therapy bit is working, but getting out and being with other people
hmm
definitely is that bit better. So it's
yep,
a really good
absolutely.
message to get out there.
Well, and I some look, I some people might call it the blind leading the blind. I just think that the broken helping the broken is probably one of the best things for all of us, because you're also helping. You don't think about this either. Like my friends who have depression, when I go out, I'm helping them too. They might not have wanted to leave the house as well,
Yeah,
and so, just getting together and look, any type of environment where you can shed skin
mhm,
and uh, you know have people around you who you can talk to about your problems and they can talk to you about their problems and you can help guide each other. I think is to me has always been way more helpful than. And I'm nothing against therapy because therapy can be super important for a lot of people,
yep,
but for me has been more cathartic and more helpful than sitting down with someone who is just telling me how I should be
yep.
you know and
Um,
at least I know the person that I'm with is experiencing in some way experiencing what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things people need to realize that everybody is an individual. We are all different. What works for you might not work for someone else.
Hmm
But getting some advice and you don't know until you try and find out which it
Yeah.
is that works for you.
Yes, for sure.
100%. Um, Time is creeping up on us. Unfortunately, I
Yeah.
could talk about this for hours, and I know other people that could as well. I'm just going to circle around to your other little project, that Shinedown band we mentioned.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
You had two singles dropped recently,
Yeah.
both
Yeah. Yeah.
very different songs, which
Yep.
was interesting. Are they going to be on an EP or an album, or are they just like they're
Yep.
standalone and we'll see what's coming up next?
No, we're working on a Shinedown record right now. We have quite a few songs, maybe not mixed, but tracked, and we have a couple more songs probably to write. A couple more things we probably know we need for a
Mhm.
great record, but not much. So I can probably safely say, and I can't put a date on it, but I can probably say middle to the end of summer we'll probably be putting a record out. So July, August, somewhere in there maybe.
Fantastic.
That's sort of the a very large area we have circled right now to try to have it done. But we're doing some touring between now and
Mhm.
then. So when you're trying to work on a record and tour, and I'm busy with the I Had a Name stuff right now. So and I also produce the Shinedown stuff. So there's a lot of juggling going on for me right now with everything. But between the touring and studio time, it's just kind of pushed back when we wanted to have a record out. We would have loved to have had a record out a little earlier,
Mhm.
but it will definitely be out this year. So
Yeah, fantastic. So you mentioned the tour. You're covering quite a few dates in the US.
right
I think
now,
it's
yep,
June through to August. Is that right? I've got down here. Sorry, April
yep,
through to August. Yeah,
yep, yep.
quite a lot of
And
dates there.
we might have a I can't let on too much. We might have a European a UK date or two popping up here soon for this year. So we'll see.
I
We'll see
was
about
obviously going to
that.
ask, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. I can't give any more than that.
yeah, no, everything's the planning stages and so forth. I get
Yep.
that, but we'll certainly keep an
It,
eye out for you.
it's
I
it,
have
it's
to.
all it's always interesting when you announce a tour and people get mad because they're and you want so badly to like go hang on everything's gonna be fine but yeah I realized that out of the gate we didn't announce anything for
Mhm.
some people and but those things will be happening so
Yeah, I mean, I'll be making sure I catch you in the next two. I missed the last one, but for good reasons.
mm,
When you played Glasgow, which is where I'm based,
mm.
I had obviously my plus one for the concert I was offered by the PR, which is fantastic. So I said to my daughter, I'll take you because I know you like Shinedown.
Yeah.
And I was asking Alexandria, I believe, we're opening
Yep.
for you.
Yep. Yep.
And she went, "Oh, my boyfriend really likes Asking Alexandria. He really wants to go and see them." And I was like, "There's the tickets. You both go and enjoy
Yeah.
the show." And
That's
I
nice.
feel happy as a dad for doing that. But then
Yeah.
every single review and every bit of feedback I got from that concert and that tour was so good. I was like, I should have just been selfish and kept the ticket.
That's
Um,
really nice though, man. Come on. Good for you. Good for you for
so
doing that.
no,
Yeah.
I'll be there front and center for the next one. And so fingers crossed for a Glasgow date. And if worse comes to
Yep.
worse, I'll try and travel for the for that one. But
Very
um,
good.
are there likely to be, with it being a solo album and you're being the solo performer, any live dates at all for the new album?
I've actually thought about it some. I had originally hadn't thought about it at all, but now I'm considering probably considering doing some maybe toward the end of the year. If you know, I don't think right now Shinedown doesn't have anything circled for the end of the year, and that's when the graphic novel is set to come out. So possibly at the end of the year. Yeah, I think I've talked to some friends of mine from other bands that people would know about, being
Excellent.
sort of an all-star band type thing, and I would definitely tour UK for sure if I did it. So
Brilliant.
yeah, so it's I need to make that decision fairly quickly, but I am considering it. Yes.
Fantastic. On the back, I'm just going to follow up with one question based on something we talked about earlier. If you do these live dates, you come over here, are you going to play the drums?
I might. I thought about that. I thought about switching around instruments as I go, you know.
Yeah, get them all like that. Get
So
the bass drums on the sides.
yeah, or I thought about I honestly did think about this, and I talked to a couple of my friends about it. Like instead of having a drummer that just plays traditionally, having a drummer play the way I played, like this, like get them out of their comfort zone too, and then having a percussionist and a drummer set, side by side, and one's playing cymbals and this stuff, almost a Slipknot type thing, one's playing these drums that are set up on stand. And so, I would love to make it something different for sure. That's
Yeah.
another part of it, is trying to come up with something that would be a little out of the box if I were going to
Mhm.
do that, rather than just being what people would expect to see. So, a lot to consider and a lot to plan for if I'm going to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. For certain. But in the meantime, everybody who's watching or listening, I had a name, February the 28th,
Yep,
Eric Bass. It has been an absolute pleasure, eye-opening and wonderful
absolutely.
interview. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
your time. And
pleasure's mine. Thanks so much, man.
with any luck, we'll catch you maybe towards the end of the year with one band or the
Yep,
other.
hope so. Hope so. Hope to see you soon.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Good
Bye
night.
bye.